This is episode 90 of Ethics and Culture Cast from Notre Dame's Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture. Welcome to episode 90 of Ethics and Culture Cast from the Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture at the University of Notre Dame. I'm Ken Hellenius, the communications specialist at the center. In this episode, we chat with Antonio Marchi, Notre Dame alumnus, Vita Institute alumnus, and the executive director of Life Michiana, founded in South Bend in 1972, and today one of the oldest continuously active pro-life organizations in the nation. Let's sit down together for this fantastic conversation. Antonio Marchi, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Ken. I have such immense respect for the DCEC, and I'm so glad to join you here.
Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you do your studies? Kind of those sorts of things.
Oh, sure, Ken. I'm actually local to the South Bend area here. Grew up in Mishawaka, just around the corner, and I did my undergraduate studies here at the university and had a really great experience there.
What did you study?
Oh, it was a bit of a Renaissance combination here. So I was really blessed to have somebody come forth and fund my education here at Notre Dame. And if I was going to go to school here, I was going to make the most of it. So ended up kind of concentrating my majors in theology and psychology, and then some minors in Italian and studio art.
Okay. A name like Marchi, and you studied Italian.
I did. It was a really fortunate thing. I got to learn a lot about my history, my heritage, and do so while speaking the language of my ancestors, too.
Yeah. Did you do any travel while you were a student?
I spent about 6 months studying in Rome, actually. Just a wonderful time.
And what did you do after college?
Yeah, so I actually started working for Life Michiana, the organization I currently direct, while I was in school here at Notre Dame. And I started part-time, but then jumped on shortly after my graduation and began working on the programs level there. Got to know some really, really incredible people, some great mentors that really formed me up, and here we are today.
Yeah. Well, you are the executive director of Life Michiana. Tell us about the organization. What is the mission, and kind of what are some of the things that you do?
Mm-hmm. Life Michiana is a really, really special organization to me. When I first became involved, I was struck by the genuine character of it. This organization was founded 53 years ago around a table in South Bend, just up the road. 11 ladies got together there, and it was special because that was just prior to Roe versus Wade being promulgated. And of course, lots of people reacted to it after it happened, but not many people anticipated it. And so these ladies, their gumption, they came together and they said, this is coming and we've got to do something about it. And from there, just 53 years of really, really wonderful work in service of our community.
Fantastic. And about how many people are on your staff?
Our team is actually growing right now. We've got some really exciting initiatives that are playing out. And so we kind of have a split staff. Part of us work for Life Michiana proper, and there are 5 of us there right now. We've also launched a new program that's a case management operation in the community, and we call that Her Michiana. It brings resources to women in need, and that staff is 3.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the day-to-day work of Right to Life.
So our primary focus at Right to Life is education and outreach to people in need. We lean away from the politics a little bit just because we see a lot of fruits coming from those one-on-one and kind of group conversations. They tend to be very fruitful. The outreach that we're doing right now, it's taken many shapes over the years as necessity has dictated. So at times there have been active abortion clinics in the area or various threats against life, and we've had to be on the front lines there. Right now in the state of Indiana, the situation's a little bit different, where abortions are kind of concentrated mail order or women in our state traveling out of the state for abortions. And so for us, sidewalk counseling, it's become a little bit less of a priority. So we just launched a new phase of our Her Michiana program recently. This was a program that was birthed about 8 years ago or so when several of us were around the table. And at the time, the big line was that the pro-life movement only cares about women and children up until the birth of the child, and afterwards, where are you? And so you and I both know that that's not true. It's not a fair characterization of the pro-life movement. But if people are looking that way, we've got to be able to answer and show them that our hearts are in it and that we're walking with people in need. And so back then, about 8 years ago, the first step to growing this Her Michiana program was putting together a web directory. And that directory was intended such that any woman could go on, click on the button of the type of resource that she's most in need of, and find several options right here in our community that are free and low cost. So that was, at the time, it was kind of cutting edge. We did this just in St. Joe County, and then slowly it grew to Elkhart County, and now it actually covers all 9 contiguous. So that's several up in southern Michigan, and then northern Indiana as well. What we wanted to do with it from there, though, is take it from being just an operation that says to a woman in crisis, like, here's a phone number you should call, and instead it actually walks with her and helps her accomplish the necessary steps to be able to secure resources and get back on her feet. And so just this year we launched mobile unit outreach, and that comes with a full case management operation. We've got a really, really wonderful project lead on this initiative. She brings with her master's level counseling and then 29 years working at Women's Care Center here in town. So she knows the crisis situations that women often face, and she's just the perfect person to walk with them. And so we've had some really, really incredible interactions there. Just yesterday we were working with a woman who visited us, our Tuesday outreach location, and she's gone through more challenges than I can count. And even just a couple weeks ago, she's living in her car right now, and temperatures hit -5. She's got no windows. And so you can imagine the struggles that she's facing. But over the past several weeks, we've been able to walk with her and help her pursue employment and get her back on her feet there. And yesterday, we sat on the mobile unit with her, and we celebrated her birthday. And the tears that came to her eyes, it was just the most moving thing I've seen in a while. She said, I haven't had anybody acknowledge my birthday in decades. And just that act of being with her, it felt just so normal. This is how things should be, reaching out to people that otherwise would never, ever cross paths, and just being able to meet them with good quality care and direction and kind of restore some of the control that she feels like she's missing.
Yeah, wonderful. How did you discover your own passion for this kind of work?
Oh, gosh. I think I first woke up to the pro-life movement and all of the intricacies of it when I was in high school, and I was actually working for a local pizza joint here. I encountered this wonderful, wonderful coworker of mine who was pregnant with her third at the time. Midway through the pregnancy, she and her husband received a diagnosis of anencephaly of her little one in the womb, meaning her brain was not forming properly. The child's brain was not forming properly. And so they knew that this little guy's his lifetime was limited. And so I witnessed the most beautiful thing from her. You figure she's a waitress at a pizza place that's very, very busy every night of the week, and she's visibly showing pregnant, and she has to go up to every table, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, congratulations, when are you due?" And of course, her acknowledgement right away was, "Thank you so much. I'm due in 3 months." But underneath all of that, she knew that she had to kind of keep reopening that wound of, I don't know if I'm going to be able to meet this child or how much time he's going to have. And so she, following the diagnosis, I think it was about 3 months or so that she carried her little Elias, and she gave birth to him, and the stories of his very short life were the things that changed my heart. All this child knew were words of love, as his family, his siblings singing to him, and it was enough to just make an impression on me that would last forever.
Yeah. Wow. What are some of the challenges that we face here in our own region to promote a culture of life? What are some of the challenges that you at Michiana Right to Life see in your daily work?
Sure, Ken. I think if you'll allow me to share a story here, there's a challenge that I've recognized this year that's sort of global, and it's really kind of shaped the focus of our work. I had the good fortune of going on a retreat recently, this past November, out to Clear Creek Abbey in Oklahoma. Wonderful, wonderful, fruitful experience here. But when I was traveling back, I had this almost surreal experience on the plane ride. Picture me sandwiched between a couple people, one on my left and one on my right. Both of those people are scrolling on their phones as we're preparing for takeoff. And I, just out of the corner of both my eyes, I witnessed something that really shocked me. As we were taxiing down the runway and getting ready for takeoff, I watched their fingers scrolling on their phones, and I could feel it in time with our acceleration. So it was swipe, 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 swipe. And it was clearly just outside of their control, outside of their consciousness. And it just gave me this cause to reflect. Like, we live in a culture right now where people are consuming and intaking a volume that's greater than I've ever seen in my lifetime. And they're also not retaining or processing in a meaningful way. And this is all happening, kind of in conjunction with the stressors that they're experiencing and the pressures, their anxiety as they're taking off on a plane. And so it's almost as if our culture has gone on autopilot with consuming everything that's around us, but yet not consuming anything meaningful. And this, to me, it became kind of a reflection for our work in the pro-life movement, and a cause for us to ask the question, like, this runs deep, and how do we break through with what people are experiencing? I've had the good fortune just being involved with this organization and being in touch with founders and founders' children who have been working in it for 50 years versus my 10 years. They share lots of stories and kind of fill me in on the history locally of the efforts. And I think one of the things they've expressed to me is that back in the beginning, there was a hope that if you put out facts and truth, that truth really would convert hearts. And I don't doubt that at all. But I think we now, in this age, have some intermediary steps that we've got to worry about. And mainly, it's getting people to care. And so if I have to sum up any challenge that we face in the pro-life movement, on the outreach side, the education side, the advocacy side, even on the prayer side, it's breaking through that very deep autopilot that people seem to be in right now, and finding a way to have them meaningfully consider the truths in front of us.
Yeah, that's ironic. As you started talking about that, of course, my phone beeped, right?
Did it? I didn't even catch it.
No, that's good. But, I mean, it speaks to, our constant input, such that it's also overwhelming.
Right.
Even if we don't want to, even if we want to be people of contemplation, people who, are thoughtful, it's relentless.
And it's really hard to avoid. Ken, I did some work with teenagers for about 8 or 9 years locally in the community here. And I saw, especially during the COVID times, the level of tech addiction just picked up and had some really major repercussions. So when I would have these kids coming to me and saying, Antonio, like, I had such a good day here, I was only on my phone 6 hours. And to me, I'm thinking in my head, wow, like, that's more than a part-time job here, buddy. Like, what could you be doing with that time? And one of the things I asked the group at the time was, like, raise your hand if you actually think that your phone makes you happy, or that this kind of constant connection is making your life better. And there are 60 kids sitting there, and not one of them agrees with it. They all know. And so we had some great people help us out and kind of help us find some ways to detach and detox these kids, and it was amazing. Even here on campus, we had some awesome experiences on that front. We took the teenagers on retreat here. We did it up at the parish center just across the quad, and as part of it, you got to have a little kind of recreation time mid-retreat. So we did a scavenger hunt on campus, and part of that scavenger hunt involved things that the teenagers would have to ask students or professors or locals to the campus how to get somewhere. You know, where's Oshag, or what's the name of the place with the clock on it at the end of the quad? And that too was sort of a surreal experience for me, because that was the first time I'd ever seen these robots that travel around campus
Yes.
and bring food. And so we're living in this bit of a sci-fi world, and most of the students and people around us, lots of them are looking down and just not really aware of what's going on, because they're just focused in different directions. But when they had a teenager that they didn't know come up and ask him a question, it was this amazing click. Like it ignited them. They were so excited to have human interaction.
Yeah.
And this is a beauty we have to recover culturally.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, the robots have become actually a huge debate.
Are they still around now?
They are. They are
follow
indeed.
it. But...
Yeah, it all started during the COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. Talking about those ideas of attention and kind of recovering and inspiring people to care, as you say. I mean, that seems like a really broad, some might say, really broad and away from culture of life. And yet what you're talking about is actually its appreciation of creation,
mm-hmm.
of encounter, of communion. Lots there. How do you as an organization, how are you working on those sorts of questions?
We approach it in a number of different ways here, and some of them are much more personal and attentive, and some are broad. So I'll try to hit both ends of those spectrums here. Yeah. We feel convicted that if we can have a very present and meaningful conversation with one person, the likelihood of hearts being changed or hearts understanding each other and kind of going in the direction of a good and valuable life ethic, it's really high that will actually happen. And so we identify different areas in which we want to focus on that. One of the efforts that we've been working on recently is just understanding how to connect with people across cultures. And so in our particular community, I've had the great privilege of sitting down with folks in the African American community, really understanding the challenges that they're facing and the things that they care most about, the things that they don't feel heard on, and understanding where that fits in with how they value life. And so even just yesterday, I sat down with a Black community leader here who has now become a good friend, and we're coming from very different perspectives, but really trying to understand one another. And he reveals to me that he doesn't consider himself pro-life, that he would advocate for abortion. And for him, the sticking point is he felt like the government shouldn't be in his house. The government shouldn't tell his wife what she can and cannot do with her body. So I'm listening to him there and not immediately tightening up because he's revealed these convictions to me, but I want to get to the heart of it because he does all of this work that is really fundamentally valuing human life. His entire efforts are working with people to say, like, we have to turn things around here and start looking at people as people and not as disposable in one way or another. And it's kind of connected in my head here, like, man, you say you're not pro-life, but you are pro-life. Like, you are 100% behind the value of human beings. But perhaps you just have a slight disconnect as to when human beings begin, or what exactly is a human. And so some of these conversations would never happen without the willingness to sit down with people of different backgrounds and being able to understand them first. But we find that doing it on the level of the one, it can be very, very impactful. And so we prepared for some amount of time for the local Michiana African Americans for Life breakfast that occurred here in South Bend. Great opportunity just to say, we want to sit down, build bridges, and learn to value life together. No fundraising, no ulterior motives, period. We just want to be together and value life. And so this is kind of an example of one of those efforts that has birthed great fruit on a personal level. We also feel a deep sense of urgency and the pressures of culture kind of coming in on us in various ways. And so we want to put some eggs in the basket of exploring doing this kind of work on a mass scale too. And that becomes really, really challenging. Like if you think a one-on-one conversation with someone has sensitivities to it. Imagine placing billboards up around town that are going to reach hundreds of thousands of people, and every one of them is going to receive it in a very different way. We have very little control over kind of speaking the words to that person directly. But we also want to get to a point where people on a broad scale are sort of waking up and they're beginning to care about the issues. We think that's the first step. So we don't have all the answers about it. We're engaged in a number of different kind of exploratory media efforts right now that are making use of several different forms of media. But we're really learning along the way. So a great gift that we have being here in South Bend is the university right by us. And with the network that is in our lap from 50 years of people working together here in the community, it's awesome that I know the people I can call up to ask the right questions. And so when it comes to some of these exploratory efforts, we get the best of the best from campus here: moral psychologists, sociologists, legal experts, political science experts. We're all coming around the table at the same time and coming around the table with people with lived experience too. Post-abortive women who have had abortions, or those who have considered it and gone the other way. And the kind of cross-pollination that happens between all of these disciplines, these expertise, these areas of experience, it's amazing. And so we're learning lots of great things. We're bringing research into it and launching some formal focus groups to understand how people are reacting to it and what messaging does to them. And we're excited to see what comes from it.
Yeah, that is wonderful. One of the things, I think I first met you actually here on campus at our summer Vita Institute here. And I know that you attended that, and you've attended events that the Nicola Center has sponsored. How did you become connected to the Nicola Center? Was it active when you were a student?
When I was a student, I think the seeds were just starting to sprout. It was just the CEC at the time, now the DCEC. And so I had kind of heard of it all coming up, but the reputation that's been built in a relatively short amount of time for being the go-to for this university, it's been really amazing. And so through my work professionally with Right to Life, I've been kind of cued into some of your events and programs and talks, and I've received nothing but great things from being around there. I think the Vita Institute in particular was just a major turning point for me. When I attended, I had just stepped into leadership with this organization, and it really gave me the sense of almost what I experience on kind of a micro level with Right to Life, with all of these people of various disciplines coming together. And it's clear nobody would question the heart of any of those people. The heart is there 100%. But we've learned over the years that a heart can get you so far, but only so far. It's much better tempered when it's got some expertise and experience to back it up, give it some context. And so you figure at the Vita Institute, you've got people with incredible expertise coming together. And it was like a week long of being pummeled with synthesis for the movement. And I'd left with such a great picture of how we got to where we are and where we should go.
Yeah. Well, knowing that many listeners to the podcast are not here in the Michiana area, how can people get involved in pro-life work wherever they are and whatever their call in life may be? They may have a limited set of professional connections, but how can they become and make a difference in building a culture of life wherever they are?
I would encourage anybody who's listening today to first identify the organizations that are out there doing good, solid work and consider plugging in with them. I know as a leader, if somebody called me up and they said, I've got this skill, I don't quite know what I should do with it, but I have some amount of experience or expertise in X, Y, or Z. Can you use it for the good of the cause? That would be such a victory to us. Our gears would just start turning, and there's always a way for us to plug people in a way that's not just useful for the movement, but also very meaningful for people around too. I think we're slowly approaching a day in which the front lines of fighting issues like abortion is becoming more and more related to the general public. So it used to be several years ago, we're focusing entirely on the woman in crisis and kind of solving that whatever problem she's facing from the start. Now we've got things like ballot initiatives popping up everywhere where your voice is the same as my voice, is the same as her voice, is the same as, on and on and on. I think it's important that we engage in it and engage on the level of the individual as well, knowing that your potential to impact somebody who is going to make a difference, whether it be a vote or an interaction with somebody in a very, very tough situation, the potential for that to happen now is even higher than it's been in the past.
That comes back to something that you were saying earlier. It's about, in some ways, communion with others, actually connecting in a meaningful way.
I think you're absolutely right with that. That's really the undercurrent of all of this that we're talking about. How do we acknowledge the value of the person sitting across from me here and uphold them and work with them to build a world that's going to value life across the board?
What are your hopes for the future of building a culture of life?
I'd love to see a world in which every single person looks at life as a gift. I look at several other human rights travesties that have taken place throughout the course of history, and I've often wondered, what's it going to be like when we're looking back on the issues of abortion, the issues of euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide, and several others? What is that going to be like? And as I'm looking back to issues of slavery, the Holocaust, and whatnot, it strikes me that on the grounds of the site of every human rights tragedy, there is something that exists today that says we can never let this happen again. I spent some some meaningful times going to concentration camps while I was traveling throughout Europe and studying there. And just the level of understanding I had kind of walking in their shoes was amazing. I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I said when I went to Auschwitz that I was going to do it without shoes on, just as a small sacrifice to try to understand we're talking a minuscule portion of the suffering that people went through there. And so here I am. It was February at the time and cold out, and I'm sitting here complaining that my feet are hurting the whole time. I walk up to a portion of one of the museums, and in front of me is a wall that's more than 20 feet of glass in front of me. Behind that glass is just all of the shoes that were recovered from victims of this violence here. And so I have this deep moment where I'm thinking, like, you think you know suffering with your little cold feet, and look at these shoes. So I hope we have a similar situation someday, something somewhere where there is a site that is completely devoted in remembrance to all the lives that have been lost over the years, but also committed to never let that happen again.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Antonio, this has been a wide-ranging and delightful conversation that also leaves us with a challenge to be involved and to get connected, as you say, to whatever organizations may be in your area. But you guys are doing great work here in Michiana, and we are delightful to be partner with you at Right to Life Michiana. You mentioned you had a dinner that was specifically not a fundraiser, but how do you guys get support? Where does your support come from?
We are very, very fortunate to have such a wonderful group of donors and supporters that are very engaged here. They range from all sorts. It may be philanthropists who have, very strong means versus the teenager in the youth group who commits to donate $1 a month for the sake of the cause, and it's going to hurt them to do that too. So we've been very, very blessed by the amount of support and the reception that we've received here. I've felt somewhat obliged to express my gratitude to those people in a powerful way over the past few years. It's been so important for me to come in and just say thank you and to build up the trust within the base of supporters that we have. Now, I feel like over the past several years, we've really done a good job building that up and expressing to people how grateful we are for the support they've offered. Now, I think what they'd love for us to see is to go beyond our base and to just figure out the right way to keep bringing more and more people in the fold. So that becomes a goal for us here going forward. We've accomplished the work of getting the people who are close with us, but now how do we go out and reach everyone?
Which is the whole goal of the pro-life movement as well, to build a culture of life that, as you say, will hopefully lead everyone to recognize life as a gift.
And that's our hope.
Yeah. Well, Antonio, thank you so much for coming to chat with us here at the podcast.
Of course, anytime, Ken.
Thank you to Antonio Marchi. In the show notes, you will find a link to the Right to Life Michiana website where you can learn more about their work and mission. Subscribe to Ethics and Culture Cast so that you can always get the latest episodes by visiting ethicscenter.nd.edu/podcast. We would love your feedback. Please review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and email your suggestions to cecpodcast@nd.edu. Our theme music is I Don't Know by Grapes, licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution License. We'll see you next time on Ethics and Culture Cast. Until then, make good decisions.